And we're on. Hey Lee, how's it going?
It's going great.
Today is October 11th, 2017.
Already
Thanks for
getting there.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. It's pretty cool to see the studio coming along.
Thank you. Yeah, this studio. Let's see, when did you and I start building this thing?
I don't know.
2 years ago?
2 years, is that right? 2 years?
Well, it was the first thing.
Was it before Stray Kids or during Stray Kids or after? Because I know Stray Kids was like 3 years ago.
Well, it must have been in the middle of it while you were shooting the first part of it.
Yeah.
It must have been. Oh, that's not going to be good for it when I bang it like that. Yeah, because I took cell phone. I took pictures of the progress.
Yeah. So you still have photos of the progress?
I have.
It'd be really cool if you want to decorate inside
and put some pictures of the progress.
Yeah, like frame it or something.
Yeah, the very first picture I had was the garage and how we had all that mess of stuff in here, and we had to move it all to one side. That was the very first thing we ever did.
Yeah.
Just to clear up the space of where we were gonna put this studio. Yeah. But yeah, it's pretty nice to now see it come together. I couldn't have done this without you, man. A lot of great help.
They call me the miracle worker.
Yeah?
Anything I touch is like it's either done or it's like a miracle that it's getting done.
Yeah, this is like a small miracle for sure. It's just like a dream come true for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Having this space. And then on the other side, I think it's going to be great down the road to have musicians in here for the podcast.
For sure.
And they play a little
music.
music.
Like live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Live.
Yeah, I remember you said that before.
And then they come in here and we can
I mean,
chat.
it's legit. I love the window.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's a nice touch. You don't have lights though in there, do you?
I don't even have electricity in there, but I'm going to run power from this room, obviously. But
well, that's definitely the next thing then.
Yeah.
Put it on the list. I'm looking forward to the Foley stuff for Stray Kids. Although I got to say, the re-edit, the 15-minute version of it, I almost just want to leave it at that and call it a day. But it's like we put so much work into it. But the short itself, I think is pretty awesome.
How many hours of footage do you think you have?
Well, it's probably I think it was up to 6, and then the idea was to cut it down. You pick the right take, because there's a lot of different angles and stuff, so it adds up to 6 hours. But if you cut it down so that it's just like the movie as you want it from the different cuts and the scenes that you picked, the takes, it comes out to be an hour, something like that, close to that, over an hour. And then, but a lot of it is like...
You're talking about the actual full length.
Yeah, the full length.
Yeah, I know that's over an hour. I just wondering how much footage you had accumulated.
No, like 6 hours, yeah.
That's
6 hours, and that's just the first part. So the second part was probably around the same, another 6 hours.
So 12 hours total.
Yeah.
I knew it was something intense. When here's another one. When did you first even start thinking about the idea of this story?
I don't know. That's hard to say. I think it's probably a year and a half prior to shooting, honestly.
Is when you first thought, okay, I'm gonna I'm thinking about this story about these kids in the street.
I was inspired by a lot of comic books I was reading, and I wanted to have like a comic book feel in a way, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, it makes sense in the sense that, well, I think it's interesting you say that because you say comic book and Marvel and DC comics are making...
It's different though, because like I'm speaking in terms of like when you look at a comic book, it's like storyboards. You're looking at storyboards. So I wanted to, if you look at my movie, it looks very picturesque and storyboarded rather than just shooting randomly. That's what I mean by that. And I did storyboard the entire thing before shooting it.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, I've never thought about storyboards because that's true. That is basically almost like a comic book view, but you don't necessarily write any of the stuff people are... Do you write what people are saying sometimes in the storyboard? Yeah,
sometimes. Either inside a bubble or just beside it, just as a reference. Because it's really... After... I mean, I still have all the pictures. I mean, I'm sure it's over 120 pictures. Probably.
Photographs?
Yeah, like little squares of drawings.
Oh, drawing of storyboard.
Yeah.
Okay, give me one second. I'm gonna adjust your mic though, real quick. I'm getting too many pulses.
Pulses.
Yeah, on your piece.
Mic adjustment. The service is great around here.
All right. Sorry about that, folks.
But there was a moment where, so you take the size of the room and times it by 2, and then you cover all the walls with the pictures. That's what it was like whenever I finished it.
All the storyboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was all hung up so that I could
remember
visually
that.
see it. Yeah.
I remember that. So you had, I remember you had all these boards up on the walls.
Yeah.
And you had
And then I
storyboarded.
pinned all the little pictures to the boards.
Yeah, I remember that. So where's all that stuff now?
It's in a file. It's just in a file somewhere.
Wow. And okay.
I'm thinking about, like, depending what I do, because it's really hard to know exactly. It's kind of malleable in that way. It's very, like, it's still in its formation. So I might take the first one and the second one, because I like the way how the 15-minute edit came out to be.
Mm-hmm.
There's something really cool about it. So I might just take that, add on to it, and then put in part 2 and do it too. So that would make the whole feature if I did it like that. It could be very interesting. So what I would do then is for premieres and stuff, I would take a wall and put up all the storyboards so people can see how, like, it relates back to the movie. But I think that'd be impressive. You never see stuff like that. So I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. So 4.5 years ago is when you first roughly started thinking about this idea.
Yep.
And then you started working on the script.
Yep.
And then how long till you had a finalized script?
Not long. And I only did 30 pages for the first part, and then another 30 pages for the second part. So it's kind of weird because when I shot it, everything was open. I was like, oh, there's a cool shot over there. Let's do that. Or there's some cool stuff happening over here. Let's do that. Or,
When you were shooting?
Yeah, because it's such a huge opportunity to be shooting on the red. So it's like, oh, what can we shoot? Let's just add in something. So that's why instead of having a 30-minute film, it ended up being like over an hour because of that.
Oh, I see.
Does that make sense? Yeah.
It's almost, yeah. And that reminds me of like music too, where equipment in a situation also kind of help sometimes inspire things to happen that kind of weren't planned.
Yep.
But okay. And I remember I was at a couple of shoots.
Yep. All guerrilla style. Just show up and go and then leave as soon as possible.
Well, let's I want to get back to Stray Kids, which is the movie, and then and we can talk about where that's available and everything. But I want to go back a little bit to what you think got you to the point where you were thinking, I want to make movies. This is what really interests me. How did that come about, do you think? Do you have any idea?
I really don't. I've always liked drawing. So shooting something is a lot like drawing, where you have a portrait and you just look for a well-balanced picture. And so it's the same thing, really. I really don't see a difference between drawing a picture and then just shooting a picture. I really don't. One takes longer time-wise, but at the end of the day, you have the same result. You just have a picture.
Yeah.
And everything applies to the same medium when it comes to perspective and balance and all that stuff.
It applies to like painting,
even storytelling. Yeah, I mean, when you do a painting, there's a story going on. Mm-hmm. So it's just not mobile.
Well, I remember even back in high school, I feel like that's when you had a friend and you had a camera and you started shooting stuff. I mean, you started
ridiculous. Yeah, just for fun. Yeah, just a lot of weird stuff that we thought was funny. That's it, really. Yeah.
Do you have any of that?
Yeah, we have these a box full of mini DV tapes, and I have hard drives, but I don't know if they still work because they're really old.
That have
The movies,
stuff
yeah.
on it.
And then I know that I have a DVD with like the old stuff on it somewhere.
So if I could do if we did video, which I know we'll be doing at some point soon on this podcast, it'd be great to pop some of that up.
That'd be nuts.
and show some of that really old stuff.
I'd like to put it on YouTube at some point. I think that'd be cool, just to add in really old material like that.
Yeah. But then I'm probably skipping a timeline here, but then probably Boxes came along as the first full-blown movie attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And is that available on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube.
It's called Boxes.
It's called Boxes, yeah. It's probably the worst and best film I've ever made.
I think it's so good.
I know.
I think it's really good, and if anyone's hearing this, you definitely look into
it's
film
good.
called Boxes.
I don't know why it's good, but like it shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like it shouldn't. Let's see. I had played it for the actors, and they had the same feeling. Like it was a lot better than they thought it'd turn out to be. And you watch it, you're like, oh, this is gonna be terrible. But I don't know, something about it.
Well, it has a consistency about it.
Yeah, that's probably
so.
what it is.
Once you get, I mean, because you know,
and I storyboarded that one too, so that's probably why it also has like framing to it.
Did you end up sticking very closely to that storyboard?
Yeah. I even built miniature like dolly tracks out of toy train tracks and stuff for it.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so it gives it that cinematic feel sometimes.
And I'm in it. I play that neighbor that comes out, and I don't remember.
Very awkward.
I had really long hair too.
Well, you know, I call it the original Tulsa awkward film because years after that, there's a movie that came out called The Rockstar Dreams, Christopher Duncan.
The Rockstar Dreams of Christopher Duncan.
Yeah,
I remember that.
So that was like an awkward movie. There's something about awkwardness. There's a time period before hipster was a thing. I like to call it the awkward period.
Yeah.
And that's where the hipsters flourished after that. It's weird. Yeah.
Huh.
And now I don't really see a lot of hipsters. It's more just like, if you want to get political, the hipsters are like liberal now. You know, you don't call them hipsters anymore. You call them liberals. It's weird.
Really?
Yeah, it's a transition.
No, I didn't. Well, yeah. I guess I don't feel like I really see as many anymore. I still see the beards, and I see the trendy glasses. Sometimes the rolled up mustaches.
Yeah, I don't see it as much. And I know I go to university where there's like a lot of young people, so it's not.
Okay,
that's
interesting. So it's transitioning, that whole
I think so.
hipster thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, well, that's Boxes. If you want to check it out on YouTube, it's basically about a young man that locks himself
in a classroom.
In a classroom.
Yeah, he snaps from all the stress
of his life.
Uh-huh.
And he goes into that classroom, and yeah, I remember that. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah, pretty good. My mind, I was like, I'm gonna write the best movie in the world. It's gonna win Sundance. And people are going to be like, who is this film director who out of nowhere made this awesome movie? Honestly, though, if it was shot like on a red and with awesome quality, it would have been good, I think. It would have been like really good.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it would have been.
Yeah. It had good music, too. It had really, really cool original music in it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, definitely worth checking out. And
I might revisit that style of music, too, at some point. Very cool stuff.
Yeah, and then okay, so after Boxes, what did you go to next? Was the March for Life?
Well, I try to do different things. I don't try to repeat because it doesn't make sense to keep repeating the same stuff because you're not really challenging yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Marching for Life came first.
Oh, before Boxes?
Yeah, because at that point, I never made a long narrative film. It was all long documentaries. And so that was the switch. I was like, oh, I don't want to make documentaries. I want to make narrative films. So that was the switch. Was Boxes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the headphone stuff goes off. And so the Marching for Life, that was basically you went down. I mean, that was a 2-part thing too.
That
right?
was straight out of high school, 17 years old. First time I went. And then I went again, and after that for the third time to really try to capture the right footage. And I call what I call the money shot, which is the most impressive
I know
shot.
which one.
Yeah, at the very end.
From a distance, looking down
Looking down
on
from
that
the top of the
street,
hill.
and it's just an insane amount of people.
Yeah, insane amount of people.
I remember when we got up there.
It's like, it reminds me of like people who are like migrating. You know what I mean? Just a long, huge line of thousands of people. That's what it reminded me of. It's impressive. Yeah.
Is that available on YouTube?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
So just look
Marching
up
for Life.
Marching for Life. But that would probably pull up a lot of different things. So just,
Yeah, it might, because they do it every year.
Yeah.
So you're going to find like the newest version. And then after that, a lot of people started making feature film, Marching for Life films.
Yeah.
And then there's one company that tried making like a very serious one, you know.
Yeah.
It's like I set trends, I feel like. I jump on the ball before anyone does. And then,
Yeah, when we were, because I went 1 year with you as your cameraman.
yeah.
Because you were going to try and interview people, which we did.
Yeah.
And it didn't seem like there was anybody else out there doing that. I didn't run into anybody.
Yeah,
doing
it was at a point where people weren't yet, like cameras weren't so available. And so you really had to have money. And so I had saved up or rented equipment.
That's right.
Yeah, I rented it. And it's cool because I had to convince the people to let me do it, to go to DC, which was cool.
Now, do you remember did we get there really early?
Yeah,
Because we were
there
walking the
super early.
streets.
It's ridiculous.
Do you remember what time we got there? We were walking the streets. We went to a McDonald's or something to kill some time.
Yeah.
For some reason, our flight got there super early. I remember that.
Yeah. It was like it snowed, right? Was that right? Was it cold?
It was cold. I don't think it snowed.
There's one time I went that it snowed and it was nuts. It was freezing cold.
How many times have you been to DC now?
5 times.
Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah, I love that town.
Really?
It's just so clean, it seems like. And all the monuments and stuff. I like it. And the museums.
Would you live there?
I don't think so.
Is there any kind of film situation going on?
Sorta. I know they do a festival that's pretty up there. I might try submitting at some point. Pretty recognizable, actually. Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember the name of it, but there's one.
Very cool. Okay, so now we've knocked 2 out. So it was Marching for Life, then Boxes, then was it?
Well, I did an attempt on doing I had this idea of trying to make a feature film all by myself to see if it was possible. And I was the actor. So it was called Ratherman, and I incorporated.
Oh my gosh, I remember.
I incorporated footage from like real documentary stuff, and then added, because it was like a movie where there was a plague and people died.
No, I remember that.
So I was by myself,
and there was it had snowed, right? And you were walking in the snow like all alone, like.
Yeah, there's that, and then I added fog, which was pretty realistic. Like I set up a tripod in the middle of the road. This was at a time where nobody was at downtown. Nobody. There was nothing going on.
Uh-huh.
You could do anything. So I'd set up a tripod in the middle of the road, and then I started recording, ran like far off to the other side of the corner, like really far away, and started walking towards the camera. And I got that shot where I'm like walking down the middle of buildings, and then I put fog over it, like an effect, like a cheesy iMovie effect, but it looked pretty realistic. That's probably like one of my favorite shots.
Is that on YouTube?
I don't know. It might be.
Okay.
It might be, yeah. And then after that, I did one called Shards of Glass.
I remember that. It's black and white.
Yeah, I was trying to experiment with like Gothic style and like noir. But for some reason, I don't know, I somehow lost the original, and then I ended up having just like a YouTube version of it that I tried to like copy or something, so I have like a really bad quality version of it. So,
That's what's left.
yeah, sadly.
That movie, I saw that at AMC. No, Cinemark.
Cinemark, yeah.
That's crazy that the footage would, like, the digital files got corrupted or something.
Yeah, but when I showed it there, it was the good version.
Right.
So that was cool, and it was cool seeing the huge screen like that, black and white.
Packed house.
Yeah, packed house. It was like the real attempt to somehow break into real mainstream theater, you know.
Yeah.
And then Marching for Life showed at Cinemark too.
Okay.
So that was cool. That was like tremendous. And then the last one I did was Hatch that showed at Cinemark.
Yeah.
Which was also
Hatch was pretty intense.
yeah.
Yeah, that one is that on YouTube?
Yeah.
So Hatch is really cool. Probably better. It's kind of a psychological type thriller.
Yeah.
But without going too much into it, you just want to recap the story.
Yeah, basically just a group of friends go camping into this like notorious forest for being haunted, and like for having like a spiritual being in there who like basically like takes over bodies and then it controls it. So the idea is that the spirit, we never see it really, you know, and it starts like weird things start popping out. One of the weirdest things they see is a wolf head chopped off. They find it with its guts like coming out of it, and then there's this big, and it's talking about setting trends. One of the biggest things I did was in blood it says "Get Out." You know, like, you know, that movie that just came out called Get Out or whatever. So like, so I thought that was pretty cool. But basically, yeah, it was, and then I used Get Out in other scenes where like, one of the guys ends up going to the hospital, and when he comes back to his car, it's like painted on the side of his car. It says "Get Out," which is pretty cool. Yeah,
it was also about a military.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the guy comes back from Iraq. He's supposed to like suffer from what's it called? What is it?
PTSD.
Yeah, or
post traumatic syndrome.
Is that what it is?
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm not too familiar, to be honest. It's been a while.
That was a good one. That was another good one for sure. That was.
Yeah, that was also storyboarded. It was kind of like more stick figured.
Mm-hmm.
It was storyboarded, and yeah, it's different. It's slow, different pace. It really builds up from beginning to end. It's always building up. It starts off really slow, but yeah.
And then after Hatch,
I don't know. It's hard to. What did I do after that? I know that I went back to DC when I went to visit Ron Paul. I met him because he was running for president, and I thought he would be a great president, to be honest. So I did like a mini thing about him.
I remember that.
Like, you know, Marching for Life. This was like Marching for Liberty.
And then it's almost like you took a little break.
Yeah.
and got into music.
Well, it was more like, man, no one cares about my movies. You know, I'm killing myself, and like I can't find an audience. So I was like, maybe I should just stop doing this. And so, yeah, music. Music was the way to go.
And the band was called Root Amps.
Root Amps. Yeah.
And you guys found some pretty decent success in this area.
Sorta. Yeah. I feel like we hit a ceiling, a point where it was like people just knew us, you know, all the venues we played at. And then because we never ventured out, you know, we never really cultivated that. And the only time we went out was the Norman Music Festival, which is cool because there somehow people knew about us and they were just dying to see us. And we went, it was just a packed out crowd. It was amazing. It was like the best time we ever had. And then
there's a ton of Root Amps stuff on YouTube.
Yeah, there's a lot of albums. There's one there's like 3 or 4 that are like band recordings. one that was recorded at Valcor Sound, I think is what it's called.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And
with
then-
Hank.
Yeah, with Hank. And then stuff that I did on my own, which, on GarageBand, which isn't the best thing in the world.
But then you guys also did some live recordings.
Yeah, we had live recordings. There were these local band people like the Dollar Drums, and they actually got analog and they started recording analog.
They had like a tape deck.
Yeah, so we started doing that with them, and they were wanting to do it because they were wanting to learn, so they were just figuring stuff out. And, we got along too.
Are they still recording?
I don't even know if they're still a band, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think what was cool was when things were going well, the best band we ever played with was called Prima Donna, which is it was an opening band for Green Day, which was cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Where did you play with them?
We played in a terrible venue. I mean, the venue was great, but it wasn't known for having bands. It was like they were starting to do it, and it was just it was just not a good time, to be honest, because hardly anybody showed up. It wasn't promoted very well, and it was weird. The band was good though.
What was that Asian band you guys played with?
That was them. P-Lander Z.
P-Lander Z.
Yeah, and they dress up in different colors. So like one is a yellow guy, one's a red guy, one's a green guy. They always use the same outfits, and they just go. They have the worst music, but they have the best gimmicks, I think, for shows.
Are they from somewhere in Asia?
No, they're from New York.
Oh, okay.
But I think like they all like migrated, and they all met in New York.
Oh, okay.
Started a band. I don't even know if they're still a band, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been a while. But we're probably looking at recording a song of yours, maybe over.
Yeah, I would love to be honest.
In December.
That'd be really cool.
That would be the first. That might be the first song we record here at the studio.
Because like so much time went by, and we just kind of like. When you take a break for something and come back to it, you come back with fresh eyes. But now it's like fresh eyes and like maturity. So it'd be very interesting to see what comes out.
Yeah. Totally. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
So we're probably missing something, but we can get to Stray Kids now. So this is a story about some kids that are basically homeless. Well, one of them joined recently, the two little guy gang, and they get hooked up with just running or doing things for a gangster guy.
Yeah, collecting money basically.
Just collecting.
Like in Rocky, his job was to like muscle people for money.
Yeah, basically
the same thing, but they're kids, but there's like 3 of them.
Yeah, and then that plays out, and we don't give much more. Let's not give more away than that.
Yeah, well, it's not central to the story. It's just what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, just recently, you've put together a short using the footage
that's right
that came about for the full length project.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like the project became like bigger than you were thinking, as far as just how massive it became.
Oh yeah,
as a full length. To have 12. Is that? How much hours do you normally have on a full length? How many hours of footage?
I never shoot more than what I need, but for this I did, just because the idea behind Stray Kids was, behind any movie, is let's better the equipment, let's better the story. So Stray Kids was a huge jump to like the Red, which I never shot on. So that was pretty cool. So I just tried to take advantage of that. And so I shot as much as I could.
And is all the footage used in the short? What's the short called again? So
the short, I use a line that Jerry says as the cop. At the very end, he goes, "You'll be next," or "You'll be next." So I took that and used it as a title. That's
right. Okay, so it's called "You'll Be Next." Now, is all the footage in that from the Red?
Yeah, it's all from the Red.
And it looks, it
looks good, and I purposely I monotone the color. Like it's like when you shoot with the red, the color is amazing. But for the story itself, I felt like the mood had to be toned very like a monocratic kind of color, a lot of browns, And so I did that, and I purposely degraded the footage to make it look like film. It's kind of grainy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks amazing. The way it all looks. There's a scene where they're on the skateboards, and they're just going across.
Yeah, we did a track shot.
That's what that was?
Yeah.
It looks so good on that part.
It's a tracking shot that we, again, all guerrilla style. So we ended up using a cart on the sidewalk.
Like a grocery cart?
It was the kind of carts you see around schools, when like IT guys are moving equipment across the hallways.
Sure.
That kind of cart, and then using a stabilization program, I was able to smooth it out.
Because it looks super smooth.
Yeah.
It's very a smooth shot. Oh, wow. Cool stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're sort of in the final stages of that short.
Yeah.
Because I watched it earlier today. And it's great. It's really cool. I like the editing and the style on it. There's scenes where there's like no volume. There's no sound.
I definitely took the advantage of saying, okay, I got 15 minutes. So the idea was, there's a deadline for a film festival that's strictly for students, and there's a prize winning. There's two prizes. One is the best film, which is $1,000, and then there's categories, the best category film. So there's drama, comedy, mystery, suspense, and all that stuff. So I did it for drama. So I could win for category, and I could win for best picture.
Oh, that's cool.
But I don't know if anyone's actually won both.
And what's that film festival called?
It's called Fault Line Film Festival.
Is it here in Tulsa?
No, it's in Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Or however you say that, Missouri.
Missouri?
I don't know. Some people say that.
Well.
And that was. So I think being confined to a frame of 15 minutes was the challenge. And that's why I think it's so good. Like the storytelling and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I mean, I wouldn't be able to comment on that, but almost like you had to condense it down to the best of the best stuff.
Yeah, the best of the best stuff, exactly.
To put it all together, and you pulled off.
Even like the best acting too, which is great.
Yeah, that's the thing that I caught too as I was watching it, because I know that's also guerrilla style. You're using students, and I know that sometimes you use actors that are willing to volunteer their time, that also get paying gigs, but they come in, they like the story, they want to be involved with it. But it's hard to make a movie when you don't have experienced actors, I would imagine.
It is, but you sort of you kind of know how to direct them at a point, to pull out what they need to do. And sometimes the reason why they're bad is because they don't know what to do. No one's actually told them how to act in a movie. They're just assuming they can do it.
They're just assuming what to do.
Yeah. So like no one actually taught them. So sometimes I just talk to them for a little bit and like teach them how to do it.
Because on that short, I mean, there were times where I would sit back and be like, and the acting is really good.
We didn't have time to rehearse before the shoot dates, so I would reserve time during the shooting time to go over
during
it.
the shooting phase.
Yeah, to go over it, even like rehearse some of the camera moves and stuff, and like get a feel for that. And I would, if it looked bad, it would be honest, be like, dude, that looks terrible. Like
his acting?
Yeah.
If the acting wasn't good.
Like it's not there. Can you
How much here's something I'm kind of curious about. How much of an actor looking or doing a good job, how much of it is the camera work?
Oh yeah. I would say, man, that's really hard to balance. You have to find a balance, I think.
So you could have a great actor and do a scene and do it great, but it could be ruined by the cinematography, or the
easily.
lighting, or
Yeah.
I mean,
I
all
think
these
so.
things tie in together. I think that's something people don't realize
Yeah.
is a lot of time these actors that win Academy Awards and stuff also have
Like some of the best DPs.
Yeah.
That they're working
What's
on.
a DP?
Director of photography. Yeah, a DP or cinematographer. Or vice versa. You could have an amazing DP, and his camera work is like ridiculous, but that doesn't mean it's going to help the acting at all. That's why there needs to be a balance.
Yeah. For me, movie making it's got to be such a tough project because you got to have so many experts involved.
Yeah. Or, I mean, at this point, I feel like I'm the expert in a lot of these fields, and I'm just trying to, like, channel that through other people. But that's really not the best way to go. Like, the best way to go about it is to find the real experts. But I'm kind of getting there by reputation alone, which is cool. I'm attracting a lot of, like, talented actors and, like, talented crew as well, which is cool.
So you're sort of building a crew that works with you.
Yeah, it's not a repetitive crew. I mean, in some cases, it has been lately, just out of pure luck, because schedules just work out that way. But, like, for the next one, the Monopoly themed, like, I have, like, some of the best people. And honestly, I don't think I'll be able to get that again. But I'm at a level where I might attract more professionals in that sense.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
The better things start to come out, the more people want to.
Yeah, because I think they see your work and they're like, oh, shoot, I got to work with this guy. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I think the trade-off is, well, I'm not getting paid, but I'm collaborating with, like, one of the best people. So
for them.
Yeah.
For the people that come. Well, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, if they were in Hollywood, I mean, they'd be running sandwiches or something.
Yeah, and so the idea is that they have an opportunity to up their game, which is, if you're not working already in the industry, you're going to want to do whatever you can to up your game to be noticed. So that's why, in a lot of ways, I'm providing a platform for people who want to get noticed. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah. So that's what they get, and what you get
In
out
return,
of it is their services, their expertise.
Yeah.
We skipped the movie that I call Ashes to Ashes.
Yeah.
That was probably the last one.
I mean, you skipped a lot of my student films.
Yeah. But this one was the biggest student film
today,
so far.
They've just grown.
Yeah.
Project to project. I think 116 though is pretty awesome. Where I built a robotic costume.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Is that on YouTube?
Yeah.
So can people just go to your YouTube channel
and
they'll see everything that's on there?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Was it 116?
116. Yeah.
You made a robot suit that you wore. And then it was talk about that.
The simple costume made out of like cardboard material, and I connected electrical wiring to like batteries and LEDs. So I was able to build light eyes that lit up, and I had to build it in a way so you can actually see out of it, which was very difficult. And then, and the wires from those eyes ran down the arms that led to buttons in your hand so that you could control, so you could like blink and stuff. And then the other part was, I designed a battery pack. It was like a 3 LED light battery. It wasn't real, but it was supposed to act like a battery pack. So it had 3 lights. When the 3 lights were lit, you were full power. 2 lights halfway, 1 light, you were about to, lose power.
Yeah, that was a cool one.
And then the back of the shirt was a cable with a plug. You plug into an outlet.
Right.
It was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was definitely worth checking out. There's
I think that had like the best costume, period. Like for student, like I've never seen anybody design anything cool like that.
But then you took it and you went out in public.
Yeah,
with the mask
to test it out. Which in a lot of ways it was like its own little character, which was kind of cool. I might revisit that and just go out, like make a better suit and go out in public like that.
What was it, like was that a 5-minute short? Something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I was like 8 maybe.
Yeah. Well, then there was I'm sorry. Tell me the actual title. I call it Ashes to Ashes.
Yeah. Out from Smoke and Ash.
Yeah. So that is. How do you describe the style of movie, or what genre, or what that is? Because it's not a documentary,
Yeah.
right? It's also very artistic.
The focus was in the storytelling. Like no real confines to storytelling.
But it was the Tulsa Race Riots.
Tulsa Race Riot told through a lot of different artistic like mediums and expressions. So in a way it's a documentary, but in a way it's not really a narrative film, because again, it's all about storytelling. It was all about that.
Yeah, there's so many cool things that happened.
Oh, and the other part was it had to be designed for a museum, like an exhibit setting. So like there was these 6 screens and these wooden crates that had these doors that you would walk up to, open the door, and the video would be playing. And there was 6 stations that you would walk up to randomly, and it would play in a loop a part of the film. And it was designed to be divided that way. And so it would work in an exhibit way, and it would work just watching it as a short. So that's what also made it different. It had to work in those 2 different ways.
How were you running the monitors?
What do you mean?
How were you running the footage that was being shown on the screens? Inside
I had a DVD player
for each one.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it worked out because I worked at TUTV, and for one of their sets, like behind where I was hosting, they had 6 monitors and 6 DVD players that were running old footage, TUTV footage. And I asked, "Hey, can I borrow these for the exhibit?" And they said, "Yeah." And it worked out because they stopped doing the hosting at that time. They're like, we're going to change it up a little bit because we're going to utilize like other mediums like internet, because at that point they stopped airing the show on TV. And
just through the airwaves.
Yeah. So they were now doing little snippets on like YouTube and Vimeo. So it was completely different. They weren't doing the kind of setup where we would shoot all in one day. Everybody was doing little snippets, and then they would just present it when they could. So there wasn't really a need for a host. And so they stopped using that set when exactly at the time I needed the screens and the DVD player. So it worked out. And then the wood I recycled from a set that was built for a puppet show that somebody prior to I'm a Nova Fellowship member, which means I get funding from the Coke Foundation. I get like a little bit of grants through them.
Are you talking about like KOCK?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not COKE. Not Coca-Cola.
I love Coca-Cola.
I could use one.
I wish we were sponsored by Coca-Cola.
That'd be cool. Maybe one day. But anyways, so a guy, he's already gone. So he had built this wooden huge set for a puppet show. But it looked like a corner to like a cabin with 2 windows, which I used in the movie to shoot. So there's a scene where there's a black woman and her 2 children crying. And we shot that there. But once I was done shooting it, I took the wood pieces and turned them into these crates. So it was all recycled. I still have them. And then, so.
Were those the crates you made here?
Yeah. I made them all in one day, I think.
Yeah, I remember that was a long day.
Yeah.
You were here, I think you were here on your own. And then I came by.
Yeah, you were like, I got to go. And I was like, okay.
Well, because we have all the tools here that we used to build the studio.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of nice to have that almost like a little shop.
It was
area.
it was like a factory at that point. I was just like building one by one.
It came out great. The crates came out so good.
They had to be durable.
Do you have any pictures of the?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I need to see pictures and stuff because I never got a chance to go to the exhibit.
Yeah, it was a cool experience. I mean, It's kind of interesting because like it was such a cool project, but like almost a lot of people didn't they weren't like enthused about having it in display. There was only like 2 or 3 places. That's it. Which is kind of like, oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
This is like really cool. No one's doing this. But all right.
Well, and that one's on you, also on your channel.
Yeah.
To see.
And that one's playing this Saturday at the Cinemark Circle Cinema for the Tulsa American Film Festival. It's nominated for a student category.
Is that the film festival you were at before you came here?
Well, I couldn't go, but yeah,
Okay.
supposedly, yeah.
Are you going after this?
No,
Oh, okay.
I go home.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, and I went to that last year. Or did I just go to the after party?
You went to an after party
Yeah.
where we met one of the head guys of Dead Center Film Festival.
Okay.
And I have that entered into that one too. So we'll see how that goes.
Are you going to the after party again?
I'm kind of volunteering to help prepare it, so I'll probably be there.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Make some contacts, get some more people for the podcast.
Yeah, that's true. You could do that. It'd be interesting.
Cool.
And one of the reasons why I couldn't go today is because I'm doing original video work for the Rocky Horror Picture Show at TU. It's a theater production, and they're projecting onto the stage like everything. So there's a stage built, but it's like painted like this white off color, and they're going to be projecting like the images of the set to build the set. You know what I mean?
Okay. The set's gonna be projected on there.
Yeah, onto this wooden built set.
And you were shooting.
So I'm shooting all the
what's gonna be projected.
original content. Yeah.
Wow.
And it's been
That's
pretty
cool.
intense.
How are they? When people are acting in front of that, is that going to create shadows?
I don't know. I didn't really. It seems like they're either. I honestly don't know.
Because they have projectors now that will sit directly above the screen it's projecting on.
Right. I think it's something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like at a high angle going down.
Yeah.
But there might be shadows though. Even so.
Which might be part of the whole.
Yeah.
Thing.
It gives it a feeling for sure. But yeah, it was interesting because I did a lot of green screen. Like, I'm creating interesting things. Like today, we shot a blue curtain that falls, and we shot it in front of a green screen. And in the movie, at the end, this curtain falls, and so we're trying to recreate that. So when they project it on the stage, it'll be projecting the curtain and it'll fall. But I had to create it from scratch. So I had to create a curtain that fell into 3 pieces out of 1 that we shot. It was really interesting. And then I had to turn it to a red color. So I'm learning a lot how to manipulate stuff on editing software.
What software do you use a lot? Most?
I jump between Premiere and Final Cut. Final Cut's really friendly to use. Premiere is not friendly to use, not so much, but you have more control over stuff, I feel like.
So it maybe depends on the project.
So I go back and forth.
Which
yeah.
ones we use. Good stuff. Well, what would you say to an 18-year-old that wants to get into he wants to make movies?
Well, there's a saying, like, the younger you start, the better, because it's such a long track to actually becoming a professional that a lot of the time is spent reaching that level. So it's like, if you're 18 starting, you're almost too late. You'll be either in your late 30s by the time you're a professional and getting a job, a real job doing it.
So it just takes time.
It takes time. It takes time to build a reputation, honestly. That's all it's all about. It's about maintaining and building a reputation of just being the best. And they get the jobs, basically. Right? That's how it works.
Capitalism.
Yeah. Prove your worth.
So what's your advice then?
Interesting enough, right now, the TU Theater, they're already going to hire me on for the next production. And they're giving me a bigger title. Right now I'm just videographer. For the next one I'm videographer, but also in charge of the design and stuff. So it's a little bit more
set design?
Yeah, but it's just with the videos. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
got a little bit more range more flexibility to do my own. Like I come up with the ideas and do it in the style and stuff. Because right now I just show up and shoot whatever they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna be interesting. Oh, it's gonna be 1984.
Oh, is the
next play? Yeah,
That's the play.
yeah, the next one. I'm excited because it's a cool story.
Yeah, I don't actually. I know of it. I haven't read it.
But what was his? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't remember his name right now.
The author?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm blanking on it too.
I mean, I want to say Orson Welles, but that's not right. That's the filmmaker, right?
Orwell.
Yeah, George
know.
Orwell. That's right, George Orwell.
Is.
And he's got an interesting life. He kind of was born into money growing up, but he somehow got sucked into this, like, he wanted to experience what it was like to live in poverty, and his whole life was like that. He went to the military, but then he became just this poor guy. It was kind of interesting, and he wanted to make money, selling stories and stuff and writing. So he kind of wrote 1984 when he was kind of sickly, and I think he finished it like in his bed before he died. And the story is about the world when there's like 3 superpowers left, and there's this giant war happening in the side of like Europe, or I mean it's not called Europe anymore, but like, and basically they're not fighting for any real reason except to like just send people to die. And in society, you're not allowed to think really for yourself, and like you can't really. There's no real, like, words have been manipulated, so they kind of lose their meaning, and like some words don't even exist, so it kind of stops this idea of being able to think, because you can't think without certain words. You know what I mean? Like you can't put thoughts together.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, so like, and there's surveillance all the time, and so and there's different like institutions. It's built so that there's like a few group, the elite, the very top, and then from down there it's like everyone else really. And
so like today.
Yeah, sorta, but this is more like Hitler style. And so basically like if you're acting not in compliance, you get thrown into this institution where they basically like scare the crap out of you back into being a thoughtless person, just like back in
sheep,
like North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that, yeah.
The whole world's become something like that.
Yeah, like that. And the whole system is built on the idea that war is good, and they're fighting for their like patriotism and all that stuff. But not in the same as United States. That's different. Like that's organic what we have. But like this is like totally like manipulation at a like terrible scale.
Well, couldn't we could be living in a situation where we're being manipulated and not realizing it?
I mean, sort of, but it's it's more organic in the sense that you're not really forced. It comes upon naturally.
But see, now you're talking about free will.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's your choice, really.
Yeah, I understand, but there's sort of this belief that free will is kind of an illusion, that you are sort of a product of everything you are perceiving.
Yeah, sure.
And how you're, sort of extrapolating what's happening.
I mean,
and so
look at it this way: that's always going to exist. There's always going to be like a level of like somebody in charge, and it goes down from there. But in this instance, we're the only. Well, I mean, there's like other countries like us, but like we're the one that's the most free in the sense that you can build up to be the guy on top, in a sense. Whereas you can't. There's not really a lot of countries you can do that in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. No. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, and I think a lot of people don't realize take that for granted. In this country.
If you take that for granted, you're like an idiot, because it's such a huge opportunity. And if you miss it, it's like, man, like
well,
what?
it's almost that's why I think of it as like, when they say like New York, if you make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the opposite. If you can't make it here, you won't be able to make it anywhere.
Yeah. At least like in the middle of America, you have a better chance. It feels like there's more space out here, for it. When you're in a big city, you're cramped and there's more competition. And there's more collaboration, but
There's more people. Well,
Yeah.
is that true?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
In the bigger cities, yeah, there's more people.
Yeah, and then just like consider that when there's more people, there's more competition, better competition. It kind of drives people.
Yeah,
harder.
but I mean, if you're, that's only the people on top. If you're at the very bottom, good luck trying to get to that level. I mean, if you don't know anybody, good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, how much more time do you have?
I got time.
Okay. I was curious to see what you would say if I haven't talked politics on this podcast yet, and I was wanting to bring up the topic of gun control because of what happened in Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm getting is that you have on the left, it seems that they want to.
They just want to ban it.
They want to take
completely.
away what they feel is the agent in making all this happen. In other words, if that guy from the hotel,
Yeah, which doesn't make sense.
didn't have a
because
gun, he wouldn't have been able to shoot all these people.
Criminals with fine guns. It doesn't matter. So it doesn't make sense.
Unless you said we wiped out all guns, period. Like you can't obtain a gun, so therefore, which is unrealistic.
Yeah, you can't wipe out all guns.
So I don't understand the thought process unless I think they may be thinking it'll help if we make it harder, because I think the idea of removing, confiscating guns and stuff like that from everybody, it's like that's never gonna happen.
I don't know if this makes sense, but it seems like these ideas are ideas based more on theory than actual practice. So like actual practice means it's based off reality. So like, if we take guns away, it might work differently in a different country. I'm just saying in this country, which is completely different from any other. So like, if we take all the guns away, what does that mean? Well, considering how big our country is and how like you go more into the Midwest, there's more space and more people in danger to being robbed or killed. What option are they left with? So it's like, okay, so if we take all that away, criminals, even if they don't have guns, they're more likely to rob people
With knives.
Yeah, even with knives. And I think that's the realistic way of looking at it. It's not like, oh, we take away the guns, oh, there won't be any more crime. It's like, no, there's still going to be bad guys out there.
Yeah, and that's the argument on the right side that not all terrorist attacks use guns. They are used with guns,
and not even just
vehicles, bombs, homemade bombs.
You don't even have to go to the level of terrorists. Just go to the level of a criminal. Like by banning a weapon, you're not stopping human nature, which is, some people are gonna do something that's gonna be bad for another person,
so they can get what they want.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a gun makes it easier to make that happen.
What if like a store owner at a gas station isn't allowed to have a gun anymore? Anybody could just go up to him and rob him. It just changes the whole atmosphere. I think criminals are like, oh, no more guns. Oh, boys, this is our time to like wreak havoc, because you're just making it that easy for them.
Yeah, I don't understand why there's even an argument. I mean, I get there's arguments like no automatic weapons, which are already illegal. Any weapon that's some politician deems like overkill. Rifles, not like semi-automatic rifles. It's like, why do you need that for home defense? Blah blah blah. And even if you wanted to say fine, there's a lot of people that
at the end of the day, I think a lot of it is, well, let's say you make people have weapons, like so they have weapons, but now their weapons versus the weapon that the government has is unmatched. So what happens if your government goes like turns on itself, it turns against people?
And I know that's an argument on the right. I don't. How can you actually think that could happen? I know it's happened. You can look at Hitler and things like that, but to me, it's really hard to fathom that happening in this country.
Just because it, and then that's the thing is, just because you can't think of it, for it happening doesn't mean it can't. We're just so used to living so like freely and just so like, and a lot of times we just feel safe every day. We don't think about it. We just get on with our lives, which I think is the whole point. But now if suddenly somebody's like, we don't want this country to be capitalist. We want it to be a communist country. Like in a snap of a finger. Suddenly you're throwing cold water into hot water and it's going to be like super dangerous. That could happen. I don't see why that couldn't happen. It's totally open to the possibility.
I mean, if Donald Trump can become president, anything can happen.
Well, I mean, that's him becoming president was easy. I saw that a mile away. I called it.
A lot of people did. A lot of people who just wanted to look at what was happening and not just be blinded by media or whatever.
Yeah.
There were a lot of there was even a lot of people on the left that saw that coming.
I felt it. I felt like I was being bullied by Obama, honestly.
You're being bullied?
Yeah.
In what way?
Like, I didn't feel safe with him. Like, there's something about him that's off, and I can't put my finger on it. But it just seems like everything he did went against, like, the American way of things, And that was my first, like, red flag. I was like, what? It just seems like every time, like, you think he'd do something good for America, it just seems like he's only doing things that are bad for America. Things aren't adding up, It just seems like one thing that sounds great. It sounds awesome. But it's like, it's got negative effects. So that was my thing, was like, man, like, he's got a great personality. He wins anybody over. But I was like, man, something about this guy's off. I don't know what it is. And so it like, you investigate a little bit more and you just realize that, it's very unpopular. I mean, people get onto you because they don't know anything. But it's like, man, there's a thing called the... I can't remember the exact name, but it's like the Democratic Socialists. Mm-hmm. That's a real thing, and then also like there's a lot of communists. That's a real thing. And then Democrats themselves, because a lot of them are run by like unions, like union bosses, which are run by like Marxists. You start to think, are Democrats just communists? At the end of the day, is that what Obama is? Because it, like, when you think of it that way, and then you add up all their actions, all the things, all the actions he took, it's like, it seems like it. It seems like he's trying to change America as it is into something that's completely like that would just change it forever. You know what I mean?
Almost like steering the country in a completely different direction.
Yeah, completely different.
And see, so what I think is kind of happening is that, big countries in Europe, even South America, wherever, they tend to be more of a socialistic type of government.
Yeah.
And so when you see the U.S. and we're the only ones, even Canada, fine, but they also have a much higher degree of socialism.
Uh-huh.
I wonder if on the left side there, they kind of look at the situation and go, are we being left behind? Like, is the rest of the world moving forward with a form of society that's working? Obviously, like the evolution of society is to become more socialistic.
Yeah,
and so like we need
the world changing to the point where people will benefit from a communistic, socialistic government instead of benefiting from a capitalist. Will we reach a point where people are just not benefiting from a capitalist society? I think that's the only turning point I see, but I don't think we'll ever reach that point, to be honest. Capitalism
is on the right, they love to stand on capitalism, and it does have some amazing benefits in the way that it works, but there's a lot of, for lack of a better way of saying it, just a lot of bad stuff that happens because of capitalism.
Yeah, for sure.
And I don't necessarily think it's because of the way capitalism is designed. I think it's because of people.
Yeah, people are naturally corruptible.
But
my argument is, in all kinds of types of systems, which all will corrupt, even in like utopias, which would never really exist because people will always be corrupt. The best system against corruption, I believe, is capitalism.
And that's fine. But I even, for example, McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
In this capitalistic system, McDonald's has come out and said, here is some food that you will find delicious and is inexpensive. People go, they love it, they eat capitalist system. Fast food starts to pop up everywhere, and all of a sudden we're the fattest country in the world, in the sense. Because that's what capitalism did. They said,
it's because we have so much freedom that if we become irresponsible, there's a side effect to that. Because there's so much freedom, we still have to be responsible about our choices. We can't just not be responsible about our own choices.
And that's where capitalism doesn't work. It's because a lot of people aren't responsible.
With
their actions.
And
it doesn't. And they're not just gonna die today. They're gonna exist in society,
right,
making poor decisions that will basically cause capitalism to bring out businesses that feed off that irresponsibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that, in a sense, can destroy society.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's not fair to blame capitalism. Again, and I think you could make that same argument for communism, for socialism.
Yeah.
It's not as much this problem of the system as much as the people.
There's always a side effect. Like I said, I don't believe in utopias. I don't think it'll ever exist unless there's like.
We could all be on like meds and kind of be like zoned out.
Well, I'm thinking it's either going to be an integration of AI with human beings. I think that's the only way to create utopia, to be honest.
I don't know how utopia would work, because if you're talking about everyone being happy, people spend their whole lives trying to figure out how to be happy.
Sure, but I don't think utopia has anything to do with happiness. I think it's more about a unity that's all working together, and like there's a place for everybody, and it's like puzzled so perfectly that it all works like mechanically in a way. But but you gotta ask yourself, what does that mean? Well, it means you might lose some freedoms, but it also means you may not even be aware of it.
It's deep.
Well, think about it.
It's hard to think about that.
Because it doesn't exist. Because like you have to like really go out there. Like, so if there's AI integrated into human beings, what does that mean? Well, it probably means that AI is way smarter than any human being, and so it will automatically take command of everything. And because everything is being controlled by it, right? It knows where like there's lacking, and so it like makes up for it. And so you would get commands to do something, and you'd have to go do it. Not because you're asked to, but because it's a command, like breathing.
So you're saying that somehow
it's integrated into your natural being of you.
So it makes you want to go. You want to go do that responsible thing,
and you believe that it's your choice. And when you go do it, you feel good about it.
Well, you bringing that up is what I'm saying when we mentioned this earlier about free will being an illusion. It's a very similar thing where you don't realize that the choices you're making, you're not making. You're sort of seeing 1 + 1, and you're coming to the conclusion of 2.
Mm-hmm.
There was no other conclusion you could have came to other than 2. So do you really have free will if the only conclusion you can come to is 2?
I mean, even if the conclusion is still 2,
1 + 1 is 2.
You might be driven to 1 for some reason, because humans are like that. You know, they're not.
But if you understand how math works,
mm-hmm. But
it's inevitable that if you ask someone what 1 + 1 is, they're going to say 2. There's no.
Well, sure, but there's always,
and that's a simplified version of what's going on.
Humans aren't robots. You're still dealing with chemicals. You're dealing with unbalances. Even if you know, there's instances with that. Even you still know that 1 + 1 is 2, but for some reason you're going to pick 1. You know.
I think it's still possible for someone to say 1, but no one is going to say, no one that understands math is going to say 1 thinking that they're right.
Right.
So in that sense, the conclusion was inevitable. 1 + 1 is 2. That's a very simplified version of the life we live, where everything that happens around us is 1, plus anything else that's going on is 1, so it equals 2. 2 is what you end up doing with your life.
Sure. So
the reason you're making movies or I'm doing this podcast is because of what happened in 1 + 1, right, which equal 2. Right. And if you, I'm not saying that's actually what's going on. I'm just saying that I think there's this theory where people are trying to argue there is no free will for that reason, that we can't perceive we don't have free will. We can't, like you were saying, when you have AI and this integration thing, this idea you have in the future of a utopia.
I agree, but I also don't agree because, I could have picked being a carpenter. It was my choosing to be a filmmaker. I didn't, you know what I mean? It wasn't like I was forced to be a filmmaker.
Okay, but why didn't you become a carpenter?
Because I choose. It was a choice. It was, in my mind, I was like, man, wouldn't it be cool to do this for the rest of my life? Because I really enjoy it. Yeah,
but so, and again, I'm just sort of playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
But that's, like saying 1 + 1. I could have said 3, and I said, well, why didn't you say 3? Well, because 2, I see 2 as the answer.
You're looking at the equation like things already happened. So I could have made the choice of being a carpenter, and I would have been a carpenter right now, right? So I had the free will.
Only if it was something that you wanted to go do.
Right.
And you didn't because it wasn't something you wanted to go do. So it's almost like you didn't have the choice to go do
the 1 was defined by me. The first number was defined by me. I defined it. No one else did for me.
That's the illusion.
That's not an illusion.
Well, I'm just saying the argument would be that that's the part where you don't realize that it's not you, that it's the whatever you're experiencing, the environment is basically dictating.
No.
It's almost like there's so many variables. We can't, the equation's so intense, we can't see it.
I think if you don't have willpower, I agree. Like if you can't control yourself and make choices for yourself, I agree in that point. But if you have willpower, you can decide on, like I could decide tomorrow to stop being a filmmaker if I wanted to. I could do that. And so the equation wouldn't work anymore, right? It wouldn't work. Because
unless that was the result of the equation, was you quitting filming tomorrow. and you don't know because the equation is too complex to even fathom for our quote unquote brains.
I see what you're saying, which makes sense. It does make sense.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it does make sense. I see your point, but it just doesn't seem realistic.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's like, well, to me, it's a lot like when I use the example of trying to teach a dog French.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even gonna you're not gonna even be able to start that process. Okay, and so it's just I kind of if that was something that I was gonna defend, that kind of theory, I think that argument would have to be the way to go, to say it's like French to a dog. We're not going to be able to understand the equation, so we're never going to realize that we actually are not under any kind of free will.
I get it, but it's still, it doesn't add up, like, because when I look back in life, there's things I can control and things I can't control, right? So the things that I did repeatedly were out of choices that I made. There were conscious choices that I made because I knew by making this conscious choice, it would lead to the thing I wanted. It wasn't like, oh, I want this because somehow it's part of the equation and the want is an illusion.
But what drove making that decision?
What drove it was the idea. It's kind of a childish idea, really. It's to like, a lot of it's like following a carrot. You know, you follow a carrot on a stick you can't reach. It's kind of like that. It's like, but I know I'm following a carrot, but I also know by following that carrot, I'm building an actual, like, realistic portfolio and a life out of it. Is that a mature way? I mean, I don't know if it's even a mature way to look at life, but
I think everyone looks at life that way.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, yeah, the carrot could be a dream. I mean,
it could be a dream. It could be anything. I mean, it could be.
If I'll tell you what, if the dream is like pre-programmed in your brain, then yeah, I agree. It's all an illusion. Because all you're doing is following a dream that you didn't choose. It was like planted there. But see, I don't think that's realistic. I don't think.
Yeah, you'd have to make an argument where you could say that the choices you make are dictated by what you're perceiving.
Right.
And the thing behind the whole no free will is just that there are no choices. The choices you made in your past were the only choices you could have made.
Uh-huh.
Based on, even you say willpower. Well, even if you want to say, I'm going to have the willpower to work out every day. And you do. You work out every day. It might be the willpower that allowed you to do it, but the choice to try to have the willpower to make that happen was influenced by something else. And so it's almost like you didn't have a choice, but to have the willpower to do all this stuff.
I think I agree, but not in the way that you think. I agree in the sense that there's outside pressures, social pressures, things like that, even internal struggles that like apply to that. But I don't think it's built in a way where it's like set in stone, where all you're doing is just like experiencing and not really making choices. I don't believe in that. You're making choices every second of your life.
I don't either. But I'm just making the case. And I think it's interesting.
You know, and that's why when you realize it, you know, you don't think of it as a kid, but you think of you're older because it makes sense. Like you have all these like fairy tales and these like moral driven stories. It's because it's trying to teach you, if you make this choice, it leads to this answer. And like if you do this, it leads to this. If you do this, it leads to this. So you're not like blindly walking into things. You're kind of like, at least you have some sort of understanding that if you do this, your outcome is going to be this. So that's why I don't think it's all.
Well, that's
out.
one of humanity's greatest strengths is our memory. Our ability to to learn from our mistakes, to remember.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is going to influence our choices in the future.
Absolutely. Well, I think we've got a good podcast here.
Yeah,
sir.
Good stopping point.
Good stopping point. We covered a random amount of some random topics. Again, what can people look up on YouTube to see your portfolio?
Well, I mean,
what's the channel?
There's one main thing that I use. It's my name /Weebly.com, which is my portfolio, and then everything like stems from that basically.
So is it LEE?
No, my real name.
Okay. So LISANDROBOCCACCI
Like // Weebly.
Is that WEEBLY?
Yeah.
What is Weebly?
It's a like site builder, and
okay.
I just haven't paid the full fee to take that off.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. Eventually it'll get there, but it's cool. I've been just adding on to it yearly and keeping up with the portfolio, and it's like starting to look really good.
So that's the site where anyone can see just about any of the work that you have out there.
Links to my
links.
channel, even pictures with like people I've met and stuff.
Are you on Twitter?
No, I don't think I will be, but when I reach a professional level of like running a company, I'll probably have a social media person, to be honest.
You have to now. These days, you have to.
I know it's weird. It's like to exist, you have to, like at least for networking, like you have to have that. You know, it's interesting though. It all comes back to reputation. Like you have to guard your reputation against all, and build it.
Yeah, it's like you as a brand, right?
Yeah, it's weird.
I think that was always the case. You were always a brand, but now it's more of a social media, type brand. Anyways, well, thanks a lot for coming on.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
It's good.
Good luck with everything, and I'm sure we'll have you back on soon.
Cool.
Thank you very much, sir.
Till next time.
Till next time. Thank you.
See ya.